Welcome back, everybody. It's been a few weeks, I think, since we've done a live show. Certainly, since we've just had the two of us on here, we had a couple of guests. Today, it's just the two of us. I was on a work trip with some of our clients. I drank too much, ate too much, basically undid almost every bit of exercise I did leading up to that. And if I work out for 2 months pretty hard, or if I watch my diet for a length of time, then it's like the cliche where it only takes a few days to undo that. And I'm like, yeah, that's just what we say. But it was probably 4 days, and I came back and I was back up a few pounds, some of it probably water weight, but you know what I mean? I was like, damn it. It took like 60 days to get to where I was feeling pretty good. And it only took a few days to undo it. So anyway, aside from that, we're kind of getting back in the swing of things. The brain fog from all the drinking has lifted, which is getting harder with age, which is a good thing because if I still felt really, really good after a few days of hard, drinking, then I'd probably still do it all the time. So, but it was nice to catch up with everybody. And there's a time and a place for it. Life is in seasons, like you do it, then you remember why you don't do it. But at the same time, when you go on a trip like that, whether it's work related or this one was work related, but it was also fun, like what are you going to do when just sit around when everybody else is having fun? So at a certain point, you have to let yourself indulge in bad food and maybe a few drinks and whatever. So don't beat yourself up, I guess, because I got back here. Oh, here's another thing. I got back here to Texas from the trip in Arkansas, and I was feeling pretty crummy for the first couple of days. And normally what I would do would be like, go back as soon as you get the day I get back in the gym, back on the diet, back on the low caffeine, all the things I'm doing now after a week. And what I did this time that actually really worked is I got back, I let myself eat whatever I want the day after I got back. I even went and had a few beers in the afternoon. You know what I mean? Like I didn't cold turkey it. And I found that it actually really, really worked. So now a few days later, I didn't feel like it was like miserable. Like I got back and all of a sudden, bam, no carbs, no caffeine, no alcohol. So I know that doesn't work for everybody, but it was much easier to just give myself like a grace period of like, when you get back, you're going to feel crappy. Just like kind of teeter off of it a little bit.
I think not shaming yourself and not demonizing it. Like, yeah, it's okay to go out and blow off, have a little blow off weekend every now and then. But also, I liked your strategy because I mean, this is the Strat show. It's all about strategies. This might not be a business strategy. It could relate to business. It could.
I keep forgetting what the show's about. You're right. That's good.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
The good strategy, like ease yourself into it, and it goes the other way around. Like when people, let's say, if you haven't eaten healthy in a long time, you haven't gone to the gym in years, you want to get back into it. What happens is most times people go all in. So then you cut out all the bad foods, the sugars, you start training 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Well, your body, you're just going to burn out. You're going to get tired. You're going to feel like it's not for you, and you're going to lose motivation because it's such a shock into your system going from nothing to everything. So same thing applies when you're going from everything to nothing, like what you did. If you went on a little blow weekend, had some fun, had some drinks, some bad food, if you went right to the healthy version of that, your body's gonna be like, whoa, what the fuck? Like this big transition that's going to be happening. So it's good that you give yourself that grace period of like, okay, I'm not going to be drinking as much. I'm going to have a couple drinks, maybe eat a burger, ease into it. And then it gives your body that time to recuperate and also transition back into that lifestyle you want.
Yeah, and our friend Ori Goldstein talks about this a lot because I'm about to get in trouble here, but I was about to say he is not a fan of the 12-step program for Alcoholics Anonymous, of course. I'm not either, but that's not because it's not a great program and it helps a lot of people. But that method doesn't work on me. And what I mean by that is, we talked about this on a previous show, like every now and again, there are some people like me that have to go every quarter or every 6 months, go do a lot of stupid shit. Then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm good for a while. Like, if I don't do something for a long time, whether that's drinking, partying, just doing something that's unhealthy, if I don't do it for a long time, the thought doesn't go away. It's not like, oh, I don't want that anymore. It just builds. It's like a pressure cooker. Now, that's my personality. A lot of people can stop and then they don't think about alcohol after a long time because it's been so far removed. But I'm the exact opposite. I think about it more and more and more. And what doesn't work with me with the 12-step program, we're just picking on it now for this particular conversation. What doesn't work for me for that is they make you stop and it's like you fail if you have a drink and you start over. With me, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to drink for a few months, but if I happen to drink, it's okay. Like I don't feel like I'm starting from zero. So that's kind of what we're talking about is every now and again, you got to have a blowout. You got to do something and like you said, don't be so hard on yourself. Give yourself a little bit of grace. Don't shame yourself if you screw up. So that's kind of how I have to come at it from my point of view, right?
Yeah, and that's the important part is I like that concept. The 12-step program is beneficial. It's helped a lot of people. We're not saying it's a bad program, but I do like the perspective of like, it's almost like not the program, maybe it's the program, not the individuals, but it's a shame in a sense, like, I failed. I'm a failure. I got to start over again, starting at day one all over again. So to me, that would seem like a daunting task. I made it 3 years, like, now I'm back at day one again. I got to do this all over again. It makes it feel like it's just never ending. Where if you have a bit of grace and a bit of patience and presence, you're like, okay, like I slipped up, let's go back, try it again, right? So it's a better approach. So one thing we were talking about before we press record was with business and how we like to, we're talking about how we prioritize certain things and deprioritize other things. And one was actually talking about like our podcast channel, and we know the outcome and how beneficial it's going to be in the long run of business. And because it's not profitable right now, we kind of put it off into the back burner. And so we want to kind of talk about the different areas that might come up in our lives and in your life, and realize that it's important to put a little bit of effort into almost every aspect of it, and to kind of like almost do like a vision board or a dream board of like, okay, what's my long-term goals and how am I going to get there? Because I still do that today. Like I focus on like, okay, what is going to make me money today? What can I do right now to get $1,000 today? And I have a hard time being like, okay, like what steps can I be taking slowly each and every day that's going to lead me to 10,000 a month, 20,000 a month, continuously coming in.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that happens a lot with, like, for example, we missed a week, which I totally forgot about. It's my fault. We missed a week, which is today. We actually had a show that could have gone out today, but because I was on the trip and I thought I'd scheduled one. But the thing is, I cared, but I didn't like, wasn't so top of mind that I went in just to make sure. Now, had that been a client account, I would have, oh God, the show has to go out no matter what. I would have been up till midnight making sure it was edited. But because it's something that we're doing with hopes of getting to a certain point, but because it's ours and it's like, it's kind of like takes a back seat to, like you just mentioned, like the paid stuff. So I'm like, if I only have so many hours in the day, it gets done last, which is just human nature. You're right. Like you want to like move the needle, start making some money, and it's tough. It's tough to do that. So
yeah.
So that's and this isn't, and it's not just related to this show. This has happened for a lot of other things that we've had that we probably should put more time and effort into. And this, like I said, everybody does this. We end up spending time and brain power working on projects that we know aren't going to last forever, probably for some people that we don't like, and we burn up our mental bandwidth on that. And then the stuff that we really want to do, that we really care about, but because it's not making money at the moment, we're just like, we'll get to that later. And then what happens is you end up stuck doing the shit you don't want to do forever, and the other stuff never takes off because you're not like focusing. And it's tough. It's hard to like figure out how you're going to block off your time and do that, because I don't know how authors do it, because like for them, they could write a book for 3 years with no guarantee that anybody's going to pick it up or publish it, or that's going to make any money. And like that is like the extreme part of it. But most nowadays, there's a feedback loop that's pretty quick for anybody who's doing a show like this, any type of content or anything that you do. You can kind of like, you're not waiting forever anymore. So anyway, it's frustrating and it's hard, and we all fall victim to it.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think. I mean, like, what's been really beneficial for me as far as like a strategy goes is there's certain things that I'm doing personally for our agency, as well as just whatever else I'm running, the men's circle that I have going, and our conscious co-working business that we're starting up as well, is I actually started like blocking off reminders in my calendar to do certain things. So I'd actually block off like a half an hour thing. So one of them is like every week I'm doing a Facebook Go Live, and I just talk about, I call it Sean's Show, which is kind of funny. I don't know what to call it.
Might as well.
But there's no, it's not recording any episodes. It's only on there for 30 days. There's no like track record of it, but I wanted to be consistent every week doing an episode. And there'd be times where I just kept forgetting to do it. So I put a little reminder on Tuesdays, like today at noon my time, it's going to be a reminder that comes up. We'll do Sean's Show Go Live. So I think putting those reminders in there is very beneficial, because a lot of times we think and we know what we have to do, but it'll come up in like for instance, I had this happen, I think it was last week. I was thinking of something that I needed to do that wasn't for a client or for money, and it came up at like the worst possible moment. I think I was in a meeting. I'm like, oh yeah, shit, I got to do that. And then 20 minutes of meeting goes by and I just forgot to do it, because it was just a little reminder that came in my head. So I think having that on your calendar is going to be very beneficial. And I'm trying to think of like some other strategies that would really help to like show the longevity and the progress of how it's going to be beneficial. And again, like there's no guarantees in life with anything. Like this podcast, it might not go anywhere. Same with the author who writes a book, it might not go anywhere. So like, how do you keep up motivation to do something that might not make money or might not be beneficial? Like, what would be another good strategy for that, do you think?
It's tough. I mean,
Right?
a lot of stuff, a lot of things like the gym, for example, and exercise, even though we're all pretty sure that eventually it's going to pay off, like you don't see results the day of, and that's pretty tough. You know, a lot of people recommend just doing the thing first, doing it first thing in the day or whenever you have the energy to do it. Because, once the day gets away from you, it's kind of like. So sometimes I have to force myself to do certain things first thing in the morning just to make sure they do get done. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to hang in there and to do it. That's what separates everybody, right? We always see the successful people at the end, like the people that started. We'll use Chris Williamson as an example. He has that podcast, Modern Wisdom, and he was like podcasting in his house in England in his living room for almost 2 years. And he had like some shows he would have like one listener. Some shows he had no listeners. Now he's got 4 million subscribers or something like that. But the thing is, like, he knew if he stuck with it that he would eventually get there. But yeah, no, that time in the beginning where there's nothing fucking happening, that's what they say, obviously success is. It's the people who keep going when there's nothing happening, because we all see the end result. Like, oh my God, they're so lucky. They've got all these subscribers. They got all these things going on. This is just speaking in terms of podcasting. And it's like, well, yeah, but in the beginning, those fucking people, like, nobody cared. Nobody was listening to them. So
Yeah.
It's tough. Like, I don't know if there's any single one thing that can be done other than just put it down and do it. Just sit down and fucking do it, and block it off if you have to, I guess.
Yeah, I think I like what you said is doing it, maybe not necessarily the first thing in the morning, but in the morning time is going to be the most beneficial, because that's the reason why we do our podcast in the morning too, is, if we were to do this at 4 o'clock in the afternoon after a day of meetings and talking and work and conversations and life and family, by the time it comes to doing a podcast, you're like, right?
Exactly.
Even though so much has happened, you don't want to talk about anything. Like, I'm done for the day. So I think getting the personal things done first, like they're not personal, but like the things that aren't directly correlated to a client or an outcome or a paycheck of some sorts, things that are your personal brand or your little passion project or your hobby, do those when you have the energy and the mind space and the capacity to do that first. And then that way, the rest of the day is working on the other clients. And that's one of the things, like my calendar, I'll pull it up right now on my screen. The first 2 hours I have from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. is strategic business and high level thinking. And then I have catch up / emails. And then from 8 to 9:30 is gym / exercise. And that's every day. That's every day. That 3 hours from 6 to 9 is blocked off for the same thing.
Yeah,
and then after that is business. So I take care of myself first in the morning, and then I work on the rest of the client stuff in the afternoon. So I found that to be very beneficial, because I was neglecting myself all the time, and I was doing everything I could for the family, the business, the clients. I'm checking emails first thing in the morning, and then my needs get neglected. So it's very, very important to work on you and your passion projects and your hobbies first.
It's funny how we have these bodies our entire lives, and it's like our last thought. Like, you have to, because I do the same thing. I'm like, I need to, because that's our first thing that usually goes is like, oh, I can skip the gym, or I can go grab a quick cheeseburger real quick instead of like doing what I was supposed to eat, because we treat ourselves like we're last. Like, I'm going to be stuck. I can't, I'm stuck in this shit until they put me in the ground or burn me, whatever they end up doing with my body. But yeah, it's weird how we don't prioritize our own health. And it's easy to be like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Next thing you know, you haven't exercised for 6 months, and then everything else goes to shit too. You're not thinking as clearly. God, it just sucks, man. Yeah. So, but this is not a unique problem. I know everybody thinks that in their own heads their problems are unique, and like, why me? And like, no. Everybody's fucking struggling with the same shit, man. So yeah, I'm glad you block your morning off like that. It's probably smart. And some people may think it's silly, because I've even done it before, where I'm like, do I really need to block off on my calendar? Like, well, sometimes you do. Like, sometimes you really need to, just to be like, oh, that's right, I'm supposed to be doing this right now. Because we like to think in our heads, I only need to put work stuff on my calendar. I'll remember to do the other stuff. Wrong. It's good to see it visually on there.
Well, the thing with that too, especially with like the Google Calendar, is I'll get reminders on my phone or my watch when a meeting is coming up. So it'll be like, let's say I get, I'm like, I'll do strategic business stuff later. I'm going up, also like, bing, bing. You're like, oh, yeah, that's right, I should be doing that. Another good trick that I have as well is I color code my calendar. So I have
Yeah.
green is health, which is for me, and then I have purple, which is online meetings. I have yellow, which is in-person events. Date night and stuff with the relationship is more of like a gray, brown color. And then so I color code things, so it's not just like before. It used to just be a wall of blue, and I was like, oh god, it's just all the same. At least this way, I know like,
Yeah.
do I have to be somewhere in person? Is it going to be online? Is it for me? Is it for someone else? So the color coding system really helps as well when it comes to that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. It's reminded me, I do color code mine a little bit. All the clients I hate, I put in red, which probably isn't healthy because then I look at my calendar, I'm like, fuck, I
It's
got to
all
talk to
red.
this guy. I got to talk to this. Yeah, I got to, like, oh, at 2 o'clock, I got to talk to that asshole. It's true. That's what it looks like. It's probably psychologically not a smart thing to do. So, yeah, it's tough, keeping up with the things that it's like you have to remind yourself constantly of like, what am I going to regret? I know it's cliche, but what am I going to regret at the end of life, or regret not trying, or something like that? And stuff like this show falls into categories like that. Like, oh man, could we have tried harder? Did we not put enough effort into it? And then it goes for physical health, goes for anything else that you're not doing on a regular basis. And it's like being able to think long term. And I don't really have a good answer to that because nobody's cracked that yet. That's why you see so many books about it. Like once something is figured out, you don't you don't see 10 self-help books a year coming out about habits and
Yeah.
all these other things, because whatever, like the reason people are able to write about it year after year after year is because we're getting a lot of great advice, but nobody's fucking figured it out yet. If they figured out where consciousness came from or how that worked, there'd just be one book on a shelf somewhere, but there's
Yeah.
not. There's millions of them. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. I really thought about that. It's no one's cracked the code on these habits. And I mean, and the thing is too, like this isn't just for like the podcast show. This could be for anything, like my own personal Instagram or social media. I neglect that a lot of the times because I'm focusing on other clients. And I think maybe a good way to crack that, which just kind of came to me, is changing the reasoning behind why you do something. So I think if we keep making the reason why we do stuff is for money, then we're always going to be neglecting the things that don't pay us money, which are sometimes the most beneficial to us. So maybe if we change our purpose and our reasoning behind why we're doing something, and shifting the mindset as to, I'm not just doing this for money, I'm doing this for the longevity of my business. I'm doing this for being able to help more people. I'm doing this to be able to attract more clients. But I think I'll speak for myself here. My mindset is like, what do I need to do for a paycheck? What do I need to do to earn an income coming in? So my mindset stays like that. I'm always going to be neglecting myself and the things that should be done. I shouldn't say should. Should is wood with shame, that need to be done. And I'm neglecting it because it's not like, even like today's episode, we're not going to make $1 off today's episode probably.
Right.
But I need to start thinking of the mindset of like, this outcome of this isn't to make money. It's going to be to grow our presence, to be able to grow our reach, our network, and be able. And eventually, if that brings in revenue, amazing. If it doesn't, then we had fun doing it. But if I'm stuck on that, it's going to be hard to grow.
Yeah, and it's getting the reps in too. Like we are getting, even though people may not be able to tell, we are getting better at this the more of these that we do. And I know it's hard to tell, but if you were to go back and listen to one of my previous shows that I did before you and I started even working together, this was years ago, they're pretty bad. So, you do get the reps in, like anything else, like you kind of get a little bit better along the way. And because you can't shortcut certain things. Like you can't take a course or talk to yourself in the mirror for a morning and then all of a sudden jump on camera. And I'm not saying we're being smooth by any means, but you know what I mean. You can't just get on and be able to talk because we're not taking notes. I got nothing in front of me here. And that's just because we've done this so many times now that we're able to be comfortable and relaxed and not fucking think about every next word that's coming out of our mouths. And that takes time to get. So this is one example with this is it's just hard to, if you think that you're wasting time doing something, it does count, even if you're like journaling, for example. Nobody may ever see those. You may never even read your journal again, but it's, you're getting better at getting your thoughts out and everything else. So I don't know.
I look back at a video I posted on Facebook like 10 years ago, 9 years ago, when I first did like affiliate marketing. I'm like watching it, I'm cringing. I'm like, oh my God, no, don't say that. No, why did you say that? Again, like the progression of what I'm able to do, like when I'm comfortable with doing podcasts now and go lives and talking in public. Like, I run a men's circle here, and 2 weeks ago I had 24 guys at the house, and I'm facilitating the whole thing. So I'm like, talking, doing the intro, talking about what we're talking about, setting the scene, the mood, holding the space, making sure everyone stays on time. Like all eyes are on me. And like if I tried to do that 10 years ago, I would have been like little
Yeah.
panic, right? So like I said, every time you do something, you're building a habit, you're building practice. So whether or not, let's say someone out there starting their own podcast, whether or not that podcast ever takes off, that skill is going to transmute into other areas of your life, whether it be for running advertisements or guest speaking or public speaking or whatever it might be. You're still getting those reps in, and it's going to help you. It's a skill. Everything you do, the more you do it, it's another acquired skill. Whether it takes off in that project or not is irrelevant. You're still learning something really cool.
That's true. And like I said, there's no shortcuts. So even if, you might as well be recording yourself. I mean, at this point, you might as well turn on a recorder and talk. So, but it's something that we're losing as a society as well with all the social media stuff. Not necessarily people our age, because we were around before all that, but like there's a lot of people that just don't interact anymore. And even, this is going to be a dumb example, but in all of my travels and all the things that I do, I still go to happy hours every now and again. I'm still out in public. A lot of them in co-working now. And you don't see, and this could just be a total fluke, but there's like a Mardi Gras celebration in town in Galveston now too. You don't see like a lot of younger people out hanging out in groups or talking. And when you go to the bar, it's all people between 35 and whatever. Now that could just be because younger people don't go to bars anymore. But I'm noticing a difference that every time I go to a social function, it's people that are closer to my age. And I think that younger people are just more stuck on their phones and everything else. So
yeah, good point. There's a couple of my stepson's friends that I've met. At parties, they come to our house, or I'm dropping off Isaiah to their house. And there's a lot of kids that when they talk to you, they can't even make eye contact to the parents. They're just like, yeah, he's good. Like they're so separated from reality because of always being on iPads or phones or video games or movies. And I think parents are using, this is a little off topic now, but parents are using those as parenting tools now. It's like, oh, okay, I have a busy life. Here's an iPad. Go watch something for 4 hours while mommy works. So it creates like that is now their reality, and then actually socializing and talking is what TV used to be, right? Like TV was like that weird thing you'd watch with family. On evening you'd watch Survivor as a family night, and that's it. Then you turn the TV off, and that was like your escape from reality. Now, having a conversation with humans is the escape from your virtual reality that you're used to. So the more you do a podcast and record, or you do go lives or videos and stuff like that, it's practice. And I think it's, like you said, it's very important to go outside and go to co-working places and go to social gathering events. Like last night I went to an event called Gathering of Souls. There's 11 of us there, and we just did a little microdose psilocybin mushroom.
Yes.
And we just, a little micro, just to open up the gateways in the brains and relax. And we just talked about like who we are and what do we want to be, and not who we are as like a father, I'm a man, like who we are spiritually, who we are as an individual when you take the labels away. So it was just like this really connective conversation that we had for 2.5 hours. And then it just filled my social cup up. I felt great after that. And it's what I was craving the whole weekend, because I didn't get that on the weekend. So I think it's very, very valuable to be able to socialize in these types of environments. Maybe not microdosing mushrooms. If you're anti-mushrooms, that's all your prerogative. Yeah. But just get out. Just really get outside, talk to a human. Even if it's virtual like this, it's still talking to a human. I still recommend the in-person one, because you actually feed off the energy and the person themselves. But yeah, it's very, very underrated.
Who was that artist that did it was a photograph or something of somewhere in public where people were they're all looking down at their phones like this. And then in the final painting, I can't remember if it was a painting or a photograph, he removed all the devices from everybody's hands. So you just see all these people. It looked stupid as fuck. Yeah. And the point was like, oh my God, this is what we're turning into. Walking around looking down. And it's become a compulsion. And we'll have to have Ori on to talk about that. It's become a compulsion now, because now your brain will have like phantom like vibrations in your pocket sometimes. You're like, oh, was that my phone? And you reach for it. And I caught myself doing this. I think I talked about from the retreat. The first few days when I knew I didn't have my phone, they took them when I got there. They locked them up. I was on a 12-day silent retreat. And 3-4 days in, we're standing in line to eat, because you're so used to when you have an extra second. Like, well, I might as well check my phone, even if you're just looking at the time. How stupid is that? And I kept reaching in my pocket, and the damn thing wasn't there, and I knew it wasn't there. So it goes beyond addiction. I think it's a compulsion, but that's social media and cell phones is a whole nother topic. But I guess what we're trying to circle back around to is, how do you maintain like habits and consistency on something, even when it's not really being lucrative, or there's not really any return on it? And the answer is, You got to block off time and just do it and just pull that little thread. Just sit down and force yourself to do something. A lot of writers will say, like Stephen Pressfield, and we're going back to a lot of writing advice, but it applies to all parts of life. Just sit down in front of the computer for 10 minutes. If you're supposed to do something on the computer, just sit down for 10 minutes and don't make yourself do anything. Just set a timer, and you'll find that it takes about 15 minutes to get into something. I think that's what James Clear said with Atomic Habits. Like, because you know how it is, like when you sit down to do a project and then you're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Then you start like opening windows up and things. Then all of a sudden, a few minutes into it, you're like, oh shit, that took me half the time. Why didn't I just do that? How stupid was that?
I think what we talked about at the very beginning of the episode applies to how to create this habit. Don't go all in right away.
Right.
Just like when you're coming back from a bender weekend and you're trying to be healthy again, ease into things. Take step by step, little by little. So if you want to start your podcast, don't just record 20 episodes in a week and burn yourself out. And then all of a sudden you're just like, you're tired, you're exhausted, you're not seeing any outcomes. Little by little, step by step creates those habits, and giving yourself the grace and the period to be like, okay, like I might stumble, I might mumble a little bit. We might, have to edit this out. I might not feel like doing it today. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow, but just be easy on yourself. Take it step by step, little by little is going to be probably the best advice when it comes to doing that. Because if we would have went like how long did it take us to get our logo and stuff for this? It was like a month, right? Like going back and forth, and they made it look like you were anorexic or something like that with this weird bobblehead. Like there's a couple little drafts, right? But
they managed to make a caricature look even worse than I do in real life. For some kind of pumpkin how they did it, which is pretty hard to do. I was like, Jesus. Sorry, that guy's been on Ozempic or something, or AIDS or whatever. I probably can't say that.
AIDS, AIDS.
Yeah. So no, 100%. Yeah. Come back off your trips. If you were drinking a handle of Tito's every day on the trip, the day you get back, just have half a handle. The day after that, have a quarter of it. Everything will be fine. Just ease out. Just be kind to yourselves is really what it comes down to. And,
be kind and love yourself.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's well put. It's a great place to end. We do appreciate everybody. Please like, subscribe. We do have more shows coming out. We have some in the bank. We've just realized that we have an issue with our shorts not populating over, which is a technical thing. So we'll make sure we get those fired up because we do have a lot of great clips from our previous episodes. Yeah. So we appreciate everybody. Please leave any comments or topics that you want covered below, and we'll catch you next time. To be continued.
Cheers, guys.